Hi everybody and welcome to the show. I'm Nick Barber, your host for Impact. This is a new season we're starting and we'll have new faces, new topics, and a lot of useful, valuable information. Before we get to that, we want to remind you we're always happy to hear from you here on Impact. You can contact us at impact@proctors.org or go to Facebook and put in Impact Show and like us on Facebook. So first up is Philip Morris, our arts host. His guest will be Alana Sparrow from the Foundry in Cohoes. Alana will be talking about her life and work as an artist and the purpose and goings-on at the Foundry. Let's watch.
Welcome to Impact. I'm Philip Morris, CEO of Proctors, interviewer for the arts segment, and our guest today is Alana Sparrow of the Foundry, co-founder of the Foundry. And if you haven't seen their website, you ought to, because it's a pretty impressive idea. Talk about it, the idea.
The idea. Well, the idea is basic and simple. It's about creating and inspiring economic opportunities for all people working in the creative and arts sectors or wanting to work more in the creative and arts sectors. So that's it.
Well, how do you imagine this?
That?
What are you doing this?
How do we do that? Well, you know, a lot of it's just kicking people in the pants. You know, it's especially with the creative people. We work with them one-on-one with consulting. A lot of it's conversation, a lot of it's coaching. We will audit resumes and look at portfolios, but a lot of time is just sat down over coffee and just having really intimate discussions about finding out about their passions, their talents, the life skills that they have, the work skills that they have, and how they can use those to leverage them in pursuing more creative endeavors that can not only create more economic opportunities for them, but also more creative work. Because a lot of it's not just about paying the bills, but it's also about, you know, feeding their souls, feeding their talents, and that sort of thing. So that requires conversation. It requires a lot of introspective, you know, process and thought. And some artists are better adapt to that than others, and others just need to learn how to do that. Some intrinsically know how to do that, and others have to learn that.
So you and your husband, Jesse, founded this.
Yes.
And where'd you come from?
Where'd we come from? Out of nowhere. No, actually, I come from a marketing advertising background professionally. That's what I've done for 20 plus years.
In the Capital Region?
In the Capital Region. So I've worked for a variety of mainly small boutique design firms, but I have been with some of the larger agencies of note, some of which no longer even exist. And it was really kind of through that I gained a lot of my own business and just sort of entrepreneurial kind of experience and being really entrenched in the business community, and really could see that how critical that was to the success of any business, regardless of what the industry was, is actually understanding the business side of things. And being a fine artist myself, I kind of applied those practices in pursuing my own endeavors, and that was really kind of the catalyst for this. In 2003, I opened a gallery in Troy on River Street. And I represented, we had 58 artists in there from 8 countries. And a lot of them were based here in the Capital Region, but many were across the United States and again around the globe. And the sort of sole purpose of that was, again, just really kind of turning the art world here in the Capital Region kind of upside down on its head and really looking at it a bit differently. Being a great marketer, I could really get people in the door. That's one thing I kind of pride myself on being able to do, is get the attention. What I really didn't understand was triple net rent. I really didn't understand that, you know, point blank. And I had negotiated a month-by-month lease when I opened it. And then when, you know, the landlord started to see, well, you know, you're sustaining, well, you're sustaining this, so now maybe you can handle this. And he put forward this lease with this triple net number, and I said, you know what, I'm really clueless. I need to figure this out. And so that's when, you know, I kind of backed out of that and really had to start rethinking. And what I kind of came to realize was I need to own my building, with what I want to do. I need to own this building because I need a studio, I need a home, and I want a play space. And so for about a year and a half, my husband, we weren't married at the time, we were just sort of partners in crime at the time, started shopping for a property in Troy. And we did that for about a year and a half, looking just for the right place. And at that time, all we really knew we wanted to do was be able to have the flexibility to do whatever it was. And we didn't have a clear vision at that time. And we got shopped out because I know, you know, the prices were just becoming kind of bloated in Troy. And it felt like we could end up upside down in a pretty short period of time. So a really close friend of mine, an artist, Nadia Trincala, she was based in Cohoes, and she summoned me to Cohoes and said, come look downtown, you know, there's some really nice buildings down here, and the community's great to work with.
Well,
so
it's a beautiful building in Cohoes.
Yeah, so we stumbled into Cohoes and met with the city, and, you know, just really felt like we could afford it, we could do this, we'd get the support.
So you must have an assessment of the arts of the region to have decided to do this particular brand of integration of community action, business development, and creative development.
Absolutely, and I think that it is happening in pretty much every community. Albany's has a piece of this, Troy has that, but what we were wanting to do, at least at the time, felt very new, the concept of what we were doing. And we really needed the support of the city that we were wanting to do this into. We converted the building from a bank into a mixed-use space, so that required zoning and rezoning, and we needed to be in a community that was going to really back us and really support us. At that time, I didn't really get that sense from Troy. It was very cumbersome to do it. Not impossible, but just cumbersome. And I wanted to be in a walkable downtown. So at least in my mind, that excluded some other communities. And so Cohoes just kind of had the all-in-one package. They had some...
but your business endeavor here, the idea is region-wide.
It's absolutely region-wide, that's right.
So go back to the assessment. What's your assessment of the arts in the capital region?
Well,
that brought you to this.
That brought us to this was that people would reach out to us all the time of, I don't know what to do about work. I'm trying to sell my paintings. I'm trying to do, you know, they'd have these pop-up art shows and trying to blast out sell 100 paintings in an evening, which was, you know, a bit kind of unpractical, you know, that sort of thing. And at least just from my lone perspective. And what we just started to realize is that there were so many sort of disparate things going on. A lot of concentrated energies in really small, fragmented kind of efforts. And so we really kind of saw an opportunity to become kind of like the Chamber of Commerce for the arts. And so that it's about bringing businesses and individuals, nonprofits and for-profits and civic institutions together in these collaborative efforts, and really being kind of that conduit and helping them identify opportunities, or when they've identified something. Let's say if a city wants to do a public call for a public piece of art, they can work with us to facilitate that call. They don't have to take that project on by themselves. We understand that entire process and how to do that. We can connect them to the artists within their community and do kind of all that back end work that tends to make these projects fall apart when you have individuals not really fully understanding where the other side's coming from. Artists don't often understand the challenges of a city and what they're trying to balance and deal with, and oftentimes cities don't necessarily understand the needs or the concerns or the challenges of the artist. And so we help to kind of facilitate that conversation and make sure that everybody's getting what they want and it's fair on both sides, and at the end of the day we have something that works.
The capital region is going through a lot of conversations about the health and ambition and future of the arts and culture. The Troy Record of the SARATOGA are having an event. The stakeholders in Albany are having an event. There's an event at Impact. There's an event in Albany. There's a lot of conversation. What do you watch it? What do you and Jesse think about it as you see all this?
Yeah, you know, the chat. We're really interested in the chat, and we really hope that we can find, as a capital region, as arts organizations, can find a place to have that chat in one place and in one space. You know, because right now it still feels a little disparate. It feels like there's multiple conversations going on and a lot of really wonderful ideas, but things kind of happening in parallel channels where if efforts were combined, we might actually be able to get results more quickly.
Do you have an example?
Very specific example. I would say, let me give it better. I don't know if I have a really great example off the top of my head.
Because what I observe is that we haven't gotten used to the fact that we're an inside-out community where most of the country, most of North America is a city surrounded by suburbs. And in our case, we're a suburb surrounded by cities. And there's the complexity of that, where the center is the airport and the malls, not the edges. And the edges have the Proctors, the Impact, the colleges, you know, on the edges. It's kind of odd. And I'm not sure we've embraced how to fix that, not fix that, how to embrace that in such a way that it's actually an advantage rather than feeling like a disadvantage.
I would agree, and I think that part of that, it just does start by conversation. I don't necessarily profess to have a solution to it, but I do feel that it does present a challenge. And you know, we participated in MOHU, which I know you had a big part of, but we had just had our grand opening, so we participated in a really minimal way because we weren't quite sure if we would have the capacity to actually support anything on a larger scale. And it's something that I do feel it has tremendous potential for the region. I think, you know, the first year, so many people were, what is this? What is this? What's the point? And you know, and so I think that our kind of what we've noticed is it's a lot of the same people supporting the same things. The crowd feels small sometimes. Like say for instance, if I go to Troy, if we look and we have a calendar, we manage all of our events on a Google calendar, and every event around the capital region that's happening that we deem sort of big competition, we put it on our calendar so that we don't conflict in scheduling events, because we know that all of these places tend to have the same supporters. So that's a challenge, and having something really large like a MOHU, our concern was that, well, geez, are we going to get anyone here if they're all, you know, if everything is so spread out? So that's what I would like to see happening here, is having the art supporters grow, that community grow. And so part of, I think, our mission is about exposing more people to the arts in a way that they can see themselves in it. So it's not necessarily as, oh, I see a painting, I like a painting, I buy a painting. We don't come from that direction. A lot of people, they love that, but they're very intimidated by it. So all of our exhibitions are sort of partnered with a talk. The artists are required to have a public talk. And as part of that talk, they talk about their process, because that's the thing that's probably the most comfortable. But we also always require them to discuss their relationship to the economic piece of their art practice.
How many artists do you think in the region are living off it?
Living off of it? I'd rather give you a percentage, and it's probably less than one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a totally random number, but it's really minimal. And, you know, part of what the conversation we always have is that, what does that actually mean anyway? Because I feel that I sustain my living very much off of all of my creative talents. I do design.
So then your answer would be you do.
I do. And I think that, I guess if you dial back to that definition, I think you have to redefine what that means. And I think that's a lot of what we have the conversation from. Because if I say, well, do I earn my living selling paintings? No, I don't. And probably across the country, how many artists actually do that?
But you do being creative.
I do being creative. That's right. And so I consider a lot of the consulting work that I do a very creative process. It's problem solving. So I think it's a matter of the individual definitions for yourself and what that actually means. But I think also as creative people and the community, we need to really look at that definition and how we're pigeonholing it, because I think that's where it gets a little slippery.
Alana, thank you very much for joining me today. This is Philip Morris at Impact with Alana Sparrow from the Foundry in Cohoes. Do check their website, thefoundrysite.com.
Thefoundrysite.com.
Thefoundrysite.com. Thank you for joining us. Come back.